So, so today what I'm going to be talking to you guys about is I'm going to be discussing the poems The Gift in Wartime by Tran Mong Tu and the poem When You Go Away by W.S. Merwin. I'm going to be comparing the two works. Then I'm going to be discussing how they are representing postmodernism. I'm going to answer some objective questions for postmodernism. And I'm also going to talk about how the writers' lives affected their writing. So I'm going to be talking about those different topics as I go and just kind of showing how these works are the perfect examples of what postmodernism works should be like. So for the first poem, I'm going to be talking about both of them at the same time. I'm going to be discussing each of them as I go. So for how they compare, both of these poems, When You Go Away by W.S. Merwin and The Gift in Wartime by Tran Mong Tu, are discussing death. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from the poem When You Go Away. So When You Go Away, it says, "When you go away, the wind clicks around to the north. The painters work all day, but at sundown the paint falls, showing the black walls. The clock goes back to striking the same hour that has no place in the years. And at night, wrapped in the bed of ashes, in one breath I wake. It is the time when the beards of the dead get their growth. I remember that I am falling, that I am the reason, and that my words are the garment of what I shall never be, like the tucked sleeve of a one-armed boy." So, from this poem, it is discussing the loss or the death of somebody. He's discussing how he feels when this person that he loves goes away from him, and he's discussing the haunting of his thoughts about how he feels about what it is like to not see this person anymore, and there's a lot of strong imagery in there. And for the second poem, The Gift in Wartime, it's very similar on the topic. It's discussing a woman and her love for this man who is now dead and gone because of the war. It says, "I offer you roses buried in your new grave. I offer you my wedding gown to cover your tomb still green with grass. You give me medals together with silver stars and the yellow pips on your badge, unused and still shining." And in the last stanza it says, "Seriously, I apologize to you. I promise to meet you in our next life. I will hold this shrapnel as a token by which we will recognize each other." So it's talking about, it says, "You give me your lips with no smile," and it talks about, "You give me the smell of blood from your war dress, your blood and your enemies, so that I may be moved." So it's talking about this death and this loss. So both of these poems have this common theme, this discussion and the feelings of what it's like to lose somebody that you love. Another thing they talk about is war. You can clearly tell in each of them, especially The Gift in Wartime. She's discussing war. She says, "The blood of yours and my enemies." Your badges, she talks about the badges that he has and the shrapnel that she'll hold on to, the shrapnel from him and his injuries from the war. And When You Go Away, it can be talking about either one, most likely war, because that was something that was going on a lot in the time period of the postmodernism era. It talks about the one-armed sleeve of a boy, like in war people would come back without their limbs, and so he was actually comparing something like that, like an injury from the war, to his feeling of loss after this person is gone. Like, he's describing how it feels like he lost some part of himself. So that's another reason why his could be also talking about war. And The Gift in Wartime is talking about Vietnam War, and W.S. Merwin's When You Go Away could be talking about either war. It could be talking about Vietnam or World War II that happened recently before. So another thing is they both have this strong imagery. You can see what they're talking about. I know that When You Go Away is talking about, it says the painters have painted and the next day the paint's gone and there's nothing but black canvas. You know, you can see that in your mind. You can see what he's talking about, and you can visualize what this looks like. He talks about, "And at night, wrapped in the bed of ashes, in one breath I wake. It is the time when beards of the dead get their growth. And I remember that I am falling and that I am the reason." So, you know, you can see what's going on. You can see this, you know, this bed of ashes that he describes that he's in. You can feel this and, you know, you can visualize it. And the same thing with Gift in Wartime. You can see what she says, I offer you my wedding gown. You can see her laying this down on the grave. You give me the medals together with silver stars. And you can imagine her with these medals that she has left. It's all she has left of him. And you can almost visualize what she looks like as she's, at his grave and she's remembering him. So that's how they're both the same. They both have the same theme. Another thing is they both have the same style. They're both in free verse. And that's another similarity. Some differences that they have is when you go away, it ends dreamily. It doesn't really have a good resolve. The ending of the poem says, and that my words are the garment of what I shall never be, like the tucked sleeve of a one-armed boy. It doesn't have any resolve. It doesn't have any, last final word that says that this person is going to be all right in the end, that they're going to be able to recover from this loss. It doesn't have any resolve at all. And in the Gift in Wartime, it ends with this last stanza that says, seriously, I apologize to you. I promise to meet you in our next life, and I will hold this shrapnel as a token by which we will recognize each other. So she wraps up this poem by describing how she's going to meet him in heaven. So that gives it gives readers that resolve that they would like to have from a poem that's as disturbing as that one. So that's a difference, is that they end differently. When You Go Away is a lot shorter. It has a lot more metaphor and darker imagery in it than the Gift in Wartime, because the Gift in Wartime is a lot more organized too. So it's organized in stanzas. It has these little stanzas that she describes. She gives him this, but he gives her this. She gives him this, but he gives her this back. So the writer, who's a man, organizes it in this way. So then you can, because it's talking about the gifts that they give to each other in exchange. She gives him this, but he gives her this back because he's dead. And the gift in When You Go Away is this dreamy, floating free verse. It's just describing the thoughts of this person. Everything floats into each other, which is disillusionment, which is, again, postmodernism trait that we've been looking out for as we've been going through this project. So we have that, and so those are the similarities and differences and how they compare in postmodernism.